this presentation is about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll just go through it, and then we'll have plenty of time for some Q&A and just discussion.
So again, I just want to say thank you for joining us. My name is Richard Ogawa. I'm the owner of Gardenland Power Equipment, and we've been established since 1960. The original founder was Ray Matsumoto, later on joined by Glenn Kirimoto, and these two gentlemen really were kind of marquee guys, I believe, and pioneers in the outdoor power equipment industry. And they've really laid a solid foundation for really kind of being leading and making Gardenland into kind of the powerhouse that it is now. My role is really as owner has taken over about 11 years ago, and is now transitioned. And so we're now completely transitioned into this new management of Gardenland. And with that, we've been doing a lot of changes and pivoting ourselves to really kind of target ourselves into the battery space. So with that, we want to be always ahead and thinking ahead of what all these great changes that are coming, and make you guys aware of them so that we can continue to kind of be ahead of the curve on a lot of the new stuff that's coming along.
My name's Gabe Fu. I've known Richard this is our third company together. My background is more marketing and sales. Today I'm the general manager of the store. And from a passion standpoint, I've always been sort of very interested in technology innovation, and just trying to find ways, solutions that we can bring to this industry to help all of our customers. That's fundamentally what we need to do. Is we want to find ways to improve your business. So that's been our focus. So today's agenda, there's really three areas of we want to discuss. I'm just going to educate everybody about the recent California AB 1346 bill, which I think everybody on this call is already aware of.
Thank you.
There was
not too bad, just middle of a webinar about these gas powered equipment stuff.
Okay. If somebody's talking, can you do us a favor and just go on mute? Thank you. There was a California Air Resource Board had a meeting December last year where they actually made some final adjustments to the amendment, which we're going to share today. Richard's going to cover kind of a state of the union for our industry, just from the perspective of what we see as a dealer, whether it's in constant conversation with our partners, our manufacturer partners, or attending dealer shows. So we'll provide you that update. He'll also give you a little bit of background. As he alluded, Gardenland is not new to battery power. And then we've been building a resource pool of available resources we want to share, and we'll share that information with you guys. And the main goal, one of our main is to stay connected, because this is a fluid transition. There's regulations today that the state made, but you'll see that they're going to be making adjustments on an annual basis. And then the last thing and most important is to get your feedback, and we'll have time for Q&A. Okay, so again, thanks for joining us. So just to give you a brief overview, California AB 1346 was passed last year. It's a legislative bill that Mark Berman and Lorena Gonzalez brought to the legislature in California, and Governor Newsom signed it. It's essentially going to phase out the sale of new gas-powered small off-road engines in California. And of course, all of our industry, the small off-road engines really pertains to outdoor power equipment. So starting in 2024, that's sort of the key date. There will be a ban on selling. However, you'll see in the presentation, there's a bit of a transition timeline. And just to give you some definition, SORE is an acronym you'll see a lot of. It relates to small off-road engines less than 25 horsepower. Simultaneously with the passing of the bill was this funding. So they did approve $30 million in funding. And specifically, it's going to be used to support the transition from gas to zero emission equipment. And we have more details to share with you about where does that money go, how's it going to be spent, and all that stuff. Next is the California Air Resource Board. They're actually the organization that's designated to implement the policy. So that's why they held a board meeting last December, and they'll continue to have meetings as they progress through the transition of this bill. So the amendment that they proposed, which you'll see, it comes from them. They're more legislative body. When it really comes down to where does the rubber hit the road with all the money and the implementation, that actually happens at the 35 local air resource boards across California. So the money and the policy will be implemented at the local level. And specifically for us in Northern California, that's the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, Tri-Valley Air Quality Community Alliance, that's out in Livermore, Pleasanton, Danville, San Ramon, and Monterey Bay Air Resource District. If you're not from Northern California and you go to the California Air Resource Board, they have a listing for all of their local air resource boards. So if you're dialing in from SoCal, you'll find who's available down there. We also have links to all that stuff on our Zero Emission page that we launched on our website, and we'll talk about that later. So the definition of the small off-road engine is all landscape equipment less than 25 horsepower. There are currently some exceptions. So diesel engines was already not included in the bill. What the Air Resource Board added in December was gas-powered generators and gas-powered pressure washers. The reason is there aren't really qualified zero-emission solutions that can replace those items, those particular categories of product. So they did make an amendment in December, and what they said is they will make an amendment. They plan to publish new compliance regulations sometime this year, and they plan to review that list on an annual basis. So we could all see product categories going in and out of this process that they're going through during the transition. And that's why it's important for all of us to stay connected. Does AB 1346 apply to? Well, it's homeowners and it's commercial. So all landscapers, gardeners, city schools, we're all in that bucket of category. There are some exceptions, and it's really around emergency response in wildfire equipment. That could be what first responders use. It could be weed abatement as well, as an example. So this is currently what is in place, and we'll just monitor this as this may change. $30 million was allocated and approved. How is that money going to be spent? That's still up to a lot of detail, but in general, if you look at the California Air Resource Board, the three areas that they are going to fund are, of course, incentive programs to subsidize the expensive equipment. So there's going to be a bucket of money spent there. There's probably some administrative money and outreach education. And these are just three representations of areas. They are not at all representing the proportion of money spent. That's not decided at the moment. So don't be alarmed to think that, well, we hope they're not spending a third of the budget on administrative or education. Again, when it comes down to who's actually going to implement the distribution of the rebates, it's at the local air quality group level. Okay. A lot of discussion happened in December regarding consideration made to landscapers, and they know that this, I mean, the initiative of the bill is to help provide a sustainable environment from an economic and ecological perspective. They don't want to crater the landscape industry. So these are things that they discussed at the board level. They want to make sure that directly majority of the $30 million is spent to support small businesses. And it's really some kind of subsidization of the purchase of ZEE, which is an acronym. Again, you'll see zero emission equipment and power management solutions. They also recognize there's a bunch of issues regarding just the charging infrastructure in this example. Richard can talk further about that. They know the funding is just the beginning, and it's really a drop in the bucket. So if you look at the $30 million at a very underestimated reported level, there's 55,000 gardeners and landscapers in California, and that's probably underreported. But even if you took the 30 million divided by 55,000 gardeners and landscapers, it's only $545 to each company if they were to split it that way. So they know that they've got to come up with more funding to support the transition. They also know they had discussion around the importance of outreach to professional landscapers, small business and rural communities. And multilingual communication is really critical that they brought up. They recognize there are a lot of Hispanic business owners in this industry category as well. So those are critical things that they brought up at the board level last December and made note about it. Here's a timeline of the implementation. And previous to this timeline, the board and the state put together a lot of research and studies to get to this point. But I think for the sake of this crowd, we really only are interested in what's the detail going forward. So last year, AB 1346 was passed. They made an amendment in December. And basically between 2024 and 2027, the following things are going to happen. Owners of your own equipment, your gas powered equipment, you can currently use that equipment until it needs replacement. And then you should buy zero emission equipment. So no one's going to come and take your equipment away. Second, retailers will be able to sell gas powered equipment manufactured before January 2024. So they know there's going to be lag in the supply chain where either at the manufacturer level or distributor or even at the retail. And if there are machines made before 2024 that still might be in the pipeline, retailers can still sell them and you guys can still purchase them. So there is that window of this sort of time frame. And of course, retailers will continue to sell zero emission equipment, right? I put an asterisk there because Richard will discuss in the sort of State of the Union issues we're seeing regarding supply chain and just supply going forward. There is a hard cutoff date in 2028 when there is going to be a need for full zero emission equipment compliance. So there isn't a plan how they're going to execute it, but at that point, everybody would be demanded to sell and use zero emission equipment. So there is this 3-year period that we're heading into where there is this sort of transition that we should all be aware of. Richard, he's going to give you a State of the Union for the industry and some other things.
So guys, again, we want to kind of sum up what we're kind of doing here. Really, it kind of comes down to, some of the key learnings that we've had. We've been an early adopter of Z equipment just because we've been driven by a lot of our global Silicon Valley tech companies, right? And a lot of them are very environmentally conscious. A lot of the schools and universities have been asking for this transition, more than 8+ years ago. And that's really kind of helped Gardenland to really go forward and be forward thinkers about this technology. The other big element of this is that the adoption of cordless, we think, is going to grow much faster in this commercial market than people expect. It's one of the reasons Gardenland made a hard pivot in our business to really go after more of the commercial side of the market and the professional landscapers rather than the homeowner market. And as we see that transition in the homeowner market, it's almost a no-brainer, given that the cost of labor, the cost of parts, the cost of repairing a product really doesn't make sense. The metrics just don't make sense on the homeowner side of the market. And what's really been a challenge is really getting gas-like performance out of this equipment and the durability and runtime, right? And I think eventually now we're at the time that all the manufacturers are now producing gas-like performance products. Run times have significantly improved. And so you're going to see a lot more of that adoption capability happening, especially as we start getting into this more professional grade product line. There is still another big challenge on the charging and the infrastructure and the accessibility and portability of power, right? So that's still a big gap that we see missing to kind of complete this whole pie of making commercial cordless products readily available and usable for our commercial market. Below are just some of the companies that we work with that have been really forward thinking and innovative in the battery side of the world. And so we want to partner with you guys and to continue to offer these cordless solutions, and as well as come up with ways to solve kind of these challenges coming ahead. And so, I mean, what it really comes down to is you got two choices. You can either fight it or you can embrace it, right? So Gardenland's chosen to embrace it in a sense that we figure that this is just the first step. We feel California is one of the few states that are being progressive in this and aggressive in this, but we think other states are quickly going to follow and adopt this. And we heard just recently that New York has also adopted a lot of the California legislation that has been passed. The other thing you've got to consider, even though that Gabe kind of went through the timeline of 2024 through 2027 and being able to utilize your gas equipment, there are local ordinances that may happen, right? Your local city, your local municipality may have a different policy to what's being mandated at the federal level. And the perfect example of that is the leaf blower, right? And in many places, the leaf blower is already banned from using gas, and from not only a gas perspective, but also from a noise perspective. So just the adversity of not knowing what your local cities or what cities are going to do, we believe that you should move faster and sooner than later, right? And be equipped and be aware of it. We're seeing fewer manufacturers that are selling into California, right? We can see this specific example that we had with Honda Power Equipment and the CARB regulations that they butted up against. And it made a dramatic impact to us California dealers and our ability to sell Honda Power Equipment. We see many of those trends with other manufacturers just saying, hey, we're just going to be a 49 state company and not sell into California. California already, through many of the big brands and manufacturers, have limited SKU selection compared to what's available readily to everybody else in the US. OP industry is aware of the Z trends, and we actually, again, anticipate more states will follow California's directing. Again, the funding is very limited. The battery transition is very expensive, right? You're seeing the battery, to take a backpack blower, for example, which may be in the $500 range, will now cost you over $2,000. So you're looking at a 4 to 5x increase in cost by going to this battery platform. Supply chains currently cannot support this increased global demand for battery cells, right? Like, we're not competing at just the OPE level. If you look at the automotive market, the motorcycle market, the whole industrial market, they're all pulling lithium cells and lithium ion supply chain. And it's dramatically impacting our ability to keep up with the demand for batteries, right? We're seeing more and more consolidation going across from manufacturers and retailers. And then no one's really addressing the repurposing and recycling aspects of the battery, right? So to give you an example, you can have one cell go bad in your battery pack and that deems that whole battery pack dead, right? So we have to look at and find ways to kind of repurpose this, recycle it, so we can make this more scalable down in the future. Really, our goal is, out of this seminar, is making sure that we're here for you guys. We want to be the one that helps you educate you in choosing the right equipment. There's a lot of options and what tools you need, which brands that supply, what types of products, what your future needs might be, and are there rebates available, right? We also feel the next big portion of that is equipment training, right? Making sure that your people are trained on, how to get the maximum performance, what are the challenges that you will face as you're using battery products, and then addressing and helping you with your charging infrastructure. Do you have enough amps and power in your building to charge this, right? So in perfect examples, you can have a university or a school or a city or who mandate you go 100% battery. And then all of a sudden at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whenever all your workers come in, they're now charging 120 batteries, right, in your warehouse, right, or in your trailer or your yard. You can imagine the dramatic amperage increase of what you'll need to support that, right? So there's tons of challenges in that, and Gardenland has been investing a lot of time and finding a lot of suppliers that help address that problem. We're partnering with key brands in the battery side. So we believe we're positioned right, and we're positioned with the right partners that have these battery solutions, and we will continue to do that.
I'm going to shift over and just share with you some of the resources that we want to continue to make available. One is on our website at gardenland.com. There's a new zero-emission zone web page. There's one for homeowners and one for commercial. On the commercial one, we added a registration box and would encourage everybody to register for an ongoing newsletter. The purpose of that would be for us to communicate to you regarding when we get details about rebate programs. At a customer level, partner level, if we're building a sort of a library of zero emission equipment fully intended to allow you to be able to demo equipment. We know before you make purchase decisions, you probably want to test out, like, I need a battery kit from Makita or Steel, or I'd like to demo a zero-turn mower from Gravely or Mean Green, or I want to test out this TOA power distribution management charging tool. So there's a lot of stuff that we're trying to, again, proactively build so that we can help you with this transition. We also want to continue to provide more webinars and actual live demos. So that's why we would encourage you to register for the newsletter. We're going to publish this Zoom call on our YouTube channel, and I will make sure that if you register here, if you want a copy of this presentation, we can send it to you. And the easiest way for us is if you just again, hit this registration. I'd also encourage you to bookmark our zero emission zone webpage, the commercial one. We've already built it with a lot of links regarding news, resources. We're just trying to build a library so it's a fast location for you to get all the resources you need. I would also encourage you to go to the California Air Resource Board webpage. They have a newsletter you can sign up for. These are the folks that are actually sort of chartered to make all the changes in the legislation. So that's really important. And then there is a really good organization called AGZA, which stands for, it's American Green Zone Alliance. They actually offer manufacturers, landscape professional companies, cities and schools, a lot of great benefits. They can do education. They have something called the Green Zone Certification Alliance. They can do field testing of equipment. It's a really good third-party source that is becoming a leader in this green space. And if there's interest, we would bring Dan Mabe, who's the founder of AGZA, would probably invite him into a webinar where he can kind of explain what they do. So we just wanted to throw that out there. Specifically, next month, we're going to host a demo at John D. Morgan Park. There's a company called URS Robotics. They provide what we've seen as the very first robotic lawnmower that uses geofence technology. It's a solution, we believe, that will the automation of grass cutting. It's of course eco-environment because it's battery powered, but we think it's also a potential way to increase your productivity and help you address areas where you might have challenges with the labor force, right? Everybody's got that challenge right now. People call in sick, or there's this ongoing transition of workers. And this might be a good solution to check out where you can, again, cover labor shortages as well as increased productivity. So you can go to our website and register for that demo. It's going to be on the 15th. In March, we're going to host a demo again back at John D. Morgan Park. And we're going to bring all of the equipment manufacturers that we support as partners. And that'll be an event where we can go out and everybody can test all the equipment that we have. We're going to invite factory reps to show up. So the intent would be to just, have basically a giant zero-emission, expo. We also we've already been building a fleet of equipment that you can use for demos and tests. So you can contact us, contact Brian Santo or anybody at Gardenland. But we encourage you to start doing your research as you figure out what platforms are you going to buy, what equipment are you going to buy. So we want to encourage you to start to kind of build your own strategy. And the last thing I want to do is just, again, remind you that there's a lot of flexibility in what's happening with equipment legislation as we move forward. So our intent is just to stay connected with everybody, kind of build a community to make sure that we're able to stay in contact and make sure that we're all, trying to get through this transition as smoothly as possible. Now that was the presentation. We'd like to encourage people to, if you have any questions, you can either use you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question using this tool at the bottom. If you hit the reaction button, it'll come up. You can raise a hand and we can share the screen with you. If you want to use the chat feature, Richard's got a question, so let me do that.
Good morning. My name is Richard. I'm with the City of Burlingame. Thank you very much for having this information session here. I mean, you guys have been great at Gardenland to share some options with us. What I'm aware of are present battery-powered options for larger saws. We're talking things with 4-foot bars, as well as other landscape equipment like aerators, dethatchers. Are you aware of anything, or are you guys currently testing anything in those areas? Thank you.
Yeah, in the bigger chainsaw side, we haven't seen it yet. Most of the battery-powered chainsaws have been on the top handle side. There are some rear handle sides, but they're pretty much in the 16-inch kind of range. So yes, that is a gap that we see currently still. But we are starting to see more and more people starting, like they now have battery-powered cut saws, which will also require a pretty high-end torque. At the GIE show, we did see some much like 80-volt platform cut saws that are addressing the STAFTA kind of concrete world. So we anticipate that this is on people's radar for the development of it. On the aerator, kind of the bigger type of equipment, what we're seeing right now is companies that are investing in the bigger battery platform to retrofit into these types of equipment. And other manufacturers are now also looking at, they're having to decide, do they do a battery platform that's integrated in their equipment? Or is it a modular type battery system where you can pull batteries out and put it into a different type of equipment, right? So there's this kind of debate on how they're approaching that market. But they are looking at that and looking at ways to possibly take your existing gas stuff and retroing it with a battery platform. And we're also seeing it where they're trying to address it where if the company comes out with an aerator, you can take the existing batteries out of the existing unit and put it into that aerator, right? So there's this big kind of platform debate going on what platform to use as a manufacturer. But all are looking at how are we going to address, the larger equipment outside of the small handheld stuff.
Just out of curiosity, are these, the brands used to like Husqvarna still, or Ryan aerators, or these kind of off brands or up and coming battery powered brands?
We're seeing a little bit of both. So Gravely, for example, they have released their EV60. And if you look at their battery platform, it's completely removable, right? So you could take the 4 battery cells and plop it into one of their other products. So as soon as they come out with another product, you can take those batteries and put it in there. So your upfront investment can get leveraged across different product lines. We are seeing, guys like Mean Green that are bringing out different SKUs. They are a single battery platform that's dedicated to that application and that use of the equipment, right? Xmart has released their Toro. As you know, Toro's come out with their battery platform. Xmart's quickly behind it. So we're seeing all the major brands pretty much in that space. We haven't seen yet from Husqvarna any ZTR battery stuff, but the word is that they're all working on it, right? That answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
There's a couple questions that came in through chat, so we'll address those. Jin Wong is asking, is the funding applied to commercial only, and is any of it going to go to the homeowner? The word at the California Air Resource Board is they wanted to direct the funding to the commercial side of the business. That's their biggest concern, is they know the transition for equipment is very expensive. Andrew's asking, biggest concern is in charging, which is a great story to talk about. Andrew's question is, my biggest concern is charging both on the road and in the yard. Do you offer assistance with this?
Yes, we do. So we actually have several landscape companies that have been working on customizing charging systems and charging trailer systems. So we're happy to refer you to those people. We ourselves also have a product that's a power management device that allow you to manage multiple outlets within the existing charging infrastructure. So you can plug it into your wall. If you have a 15 amp or 20 amp socket in your wall, you plug it in, you have 8 outlets, and this thing will manage across those 8 outlets, right? So you won't blow your circuit. Like, it literally knows the headroom and how much space you got, and will efficiently manage it across it. So you have to constantly come and rotate your batteries all throughout the day. And you can charge it all throughout the night, which will allow you to get the scalability that you need to charge all these batteries in the amount of time that you have throughout the night. We are actively looking all the time for suppliers and manufacturers that are providing portable power solutions, right? We offer, Ego has a product now, their little Genesis power bank system that you can get. That's like a portable generator in a sense, but it's driven by batteries. Looking at inverter power to put in your trailers, right? So we're looking for all those types of solutions. So yes, the best way to do it is register for our newsletter. And as these new vendors, and as we find these new vendors, we will present them to you guys.
Here to ask a question, is this recording going to be available? Yes, this is being recorded, and we will post this on our YouTube channel. We'll put it on our website so you can share. And again, if you want a physical copy of the presentation, once you register for the newsletter, we'll just use that as a mechanism to send this presentation out to you. And you can share it amongst folks, and obviously you'll be able to direct them to the YouTube channel to share the video with other folks. Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate your time today to join us on this webinar. We hope to continue to keep this going, just to keep our community connected with all the information. Oh, wait, one more. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
Okay.